What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are here for the very first time talking about all sports, but today specifically, we're talking about the college football playoff, right? So a lot of things have shaken up within the past week or two. As you can see here, we got the strength of schedule. This is before what happened yesterday because we are recording this on the 17th. This is before what happened yesterday. So I'm not 100% sure if this takes into account what happened yesterday. Obviously Georgia would still be number one in strength of schedule, but we're going to go over everything. We're going to go over what we think the 12-team playoff should be. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. Cameron, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Georgia's coming off of a big win after a tough loss the week before to Ole Miss. I had some feeling, man. The fans were excited to come into the game. We had a blackout in the stadium. We were hoping that the team was going to come out in the black jerseys, but we're rocking with the number one strength of schedule in the entirety of college football right now, and we're rolling into the playoffs. I think. We just gotta finish out the season strong. We don't got tough opponents, but you, man, you're up there, Penn State, number 4, eh?
Yeah, we are up. We are up high. This is a lot higher than I thought we would be this year, to be completely honest with you, because honestly, it doesn't feel like we've played many good teams other than Ohio State, but based off the strength of schedule right now, we actually look a lot better than I thought we did. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's start off with the strength of schedule. So right now, Oregon is number 1 in the country with a 51st ranked of schedule. I don't know about you, but I'm a little surprised how low that number is.
Yeah, but I think it takes into account, obviously this is taking into account the standings, the current standings. And you look at what happened last night. 16-3 against Wisconsin, man. I know that they dropped off true. Ohio State in a slugfest.
Actually 16-13.
That's even closer. Did I say 3? Yeah. I meant 13. Yeah. So, 3-point game against Wisconsin. They did drop off Ohio State. That is 100% their biggest win of the season, but they look vulnerable. And they do. They look vulnerable, and that's the problem. Is they don't have that heavy strength of schedule, so who knows where they could be at.
But I will say this: before this past week, yesterday, Oregon did look like the best team in the country, hands down.
Oh, for sure,
no comparison.
No, so, yeah, I agree. For sure, they look scary. They did look scary. They had a big win on Ohio State. They were demolishing all their opponents. I don't really think they had any close games. They were just, rolling through the crowd, rolling through the games.
They were. Really. They definitely were.
And, just kind of got shut down last night. It was really surprising to see.
Yep, that's the danger of going into Madison. That's what I was scared about when we had to play Wisconsin at night, man. It's crazy. Jump around is real. Yeah,
they're not a bad team, but, Oregon... Number 1 in the country.
They should have done better. They should have done better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, next thing I want to talk about, I'm going to skip over Ohio State for now because we'll get into them later. They got a big game coming up this week. I want to go into Texas because Texas, outside of Georgia, has played nobody. And you can see that here, 56th strength of schedule. This is crazy. They've only beaten Oklahoma, I think was their best win. I don't know what it is now.
Best win, yeah.
For sure, I would think it's Oklahoma right now would be the best win. But yeah, they're kind of like Penn State right now, but I guess they've played worse opponents because I believe their out of conference schedule was really bad. Yes. Actually, no, they did beat Michigan, but Michigan has fallen off a cliff, so yeah, I guess that doesn't really count anymore.
QB troubles. Michigan's not a big win this season, but yeah, you look at Texas's schedule, they have, I believe, 8 home games across the entire season, which is a lot. Their out-of-conference games they're nobodies. These teams, you don't see them. And then even still, in the conference, their only big game in the conference was Georgia. They're playing, obviously they had, Oklahoma coming in, both teams being their first year in the SEC. They played each other, and, Texas came out on top. But they're getting these bottom of the barrel SEC teams as their conference games, and they're squeaking by.
They are. Sure. Like yesterday, they went on the road to Arkansas. Arkansas is pretty good. They're definitely not. I wouldn't definitely say they're definitely not a bottom of the barrel team in the SEC, especially at home. And I'm pretty sure this was a rivalry game yesterday, but they only won 20-10 yesterday. So they definitely did not look good. They start off really fast. They start off 10-0 in the first quarter, and then they just did nothing for the rest of the game. And now I'm going to skip over Penn State. I'm sure we'll come back to them, because
a little bit of bias maybe in there on that one.
Just a little bit. But I definitely want to talk about Indiana by themselves, like with Ohio State. So we'll go to BYU, who just lost yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. This is big time stuff. BYU lost, I believe, 17-13 at home against, I believe they were 3-6 Kansas at the time. What are your thoughts about BYU? Because I know they were squeaking past people throughout most of the year. Actually, I take that back. Early in the season, they were absolutely destroying people, and then lately they have been like TCU a couple years ago, where they're slowly squeaking by teams.
I mean, they've made their way up, and that's on the topic of conversation. The strength of schedule needs to matter a little bit more, because you're looking at a team like BYU where the coaching's been good, the players have been good, but they've played really nobody, and they were demolishing in the beginning of the year, and they kind of slowed down, and it caught up to them. But we're looking at a conference-leading team here in this new playoff. They're going to make their way into the playoff, and God forbid, be a free win for somebody if they made it through. Now, obviously, they lost.
Great point.
They lost, so it's going to shake things up, and that's going to push them down to 12 seed in the playoff if they even do stick in this position. I think. What's the next team in the conference for them?
As of right now, I believe it is Colorado, who is in if it ended today, Deion Sanders and the Buffs will be in the conference championship for the Big 12. So the Big 12 is just up for grabs now that BYU lost.
So we could see BYU completely out of the playoffs at this point after one loss. I mean, they're up at number 6. They were playing amazing.
And Deion Prime could sneak in with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Highly possible that they could sneak into the 12 seed here, because I don't see them going above Boise State. I think Boise State's on a roll. They haven't played very many people, but I mean, they've got Gianti on their back, or Gianti's got the team on their back, and they're going to roll through the rest of the season pretty easily. They'll move up a couple more spots, I'm sure.
They were looking a little struggle in the first half yesterday.
It was a little slow yesterday.
But they took over once Genti took over. The game was pretty much over.
Oh yeah.
All right, now on to Tennessee. Now I will say this: I am not high on Tennessee. I have never been high on Tennessee. I don't think Josh Heupel is the guy for them, because he has done absolutely nothing in his tenure so far, but and I feel like he doesn't, get a lot of criticism, because he's pretty much like the SEC version of James Franklin, in my opinion. Every time he plays a big game, I think now is 0-4 versus Georgia.
I mean, we've got 7, 8 in a row against them. I mean, I know Heupel's not been there the whole time, but it's been a while since they've been able to take down the Dogs, and it comes in with the big games. I mean, they dropped off Bama this season. They've got a big win under their belt with that, but they always slug it out with Bama. I mean, I
do think though, they played Bama at Bama's worst. Honestly, because I think that was the week after South Carolina and Vanderbilt. So Alabama was in that rough stretch.
On paper, though, that's still a big win for Tennessee.
Oh, for sure.
I do agree with you. Heupel's kind of just slid under the radar there, and I mean, I have my own views. A lot of these SEC teams now, like you look at Ole Miss and you look at Tennessee, they've been doing this little facade of the fake injuries kind of thing. I mean, you got a big one yesterday where
that is a good
I'm
point.
not sure if you saw the replay on that one where
I did.
The lineman kind of walked out. He was staring at the sideline and they were giving him hand signals and he just dropped. I mean, you can't make it more obvious. And
I will say this, at least the lineman did look a little gassed. But obviously you still shouldn't do that. When Ole Miss did it, I forget who they were playing. It was so obvious. No one was tired.
It was bad during Kentucky. I remember watching.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. That was what it was.
There was one where Jackson Dart told one of his linemen to go down, or it was a running back or somebody. He literally made a hand signal to go down, and it's like, I don't foresee that in this offseason they don't make changes and they don't make a rule in some sort about this.
Oh, exactly.
I think there will be a penalty going forward with this. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard thing to review and a hard thing to penalize. But if they make it obvious, you can penalize it. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure. And I do want to add that last night on the broadcast, Chris Fowler did bring up something very good. I do think it should be like this. If you go down like that, you should be. It's no penalty, but you should be forced to sit out the rest of the drive, because if you
that
actually
too.
were injured, you would most likely not come back in.
That's what I was going to say. Even if they don't go as far as penalizing it, because it does have to do with player safety and player health, I think at a minimum, if you care about the player safety, player health, you need to be out for the rest of the drive. If you're going to drop for an injury, you gotta sit out for the maybe 4 plays, 5 plays, the rest of the drive, whatever they want to influence. But there will be changes. It's been bad this season. A lot of SEC teams are doing it. It's rough. Tennessee is one of them. Heupel's guilty.
Yep. I don't believe I don't believe they've been doing it most of the season, but last night was the first time they did it, if I'm
No,
not mistaken. They did
I've
before?
I've seen a few before. Heupel's done it before, even in other seasons here and there. They've done it a little bit this season. I've seen a couple clips. Last night, I mean, it was really only the one, but Ole Miss is in there as well. We were talking about that. They did it multiple weeks in a row, multiple times per game. It's dirty. It's cheap. It's gonna
100%.
It's gonna change.
Yeah. All right. So we should let's move on here. Let's go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a big topic because they are not in a conference. They are independent, and they have probably the worst loss in the college out of every team in the college playoff so far. Being NIU, I believe they lost 16-14 in week 3, and it was even worse. It was even worse because they were at home. And since then, they haven't played anybody great, I will say. But they have looked dominant since then. I believe the week after they won like 66-7 over Purdue. So, and you never know with Purdue, but I mean, I guess this year they're not that good, but
no.
In years past, you never know with Purdue being they knock off those big teams at home. But let's talk about Notre Dame for a second. Where would you have them ranked at the moment?
I think they're in a good spot. I think maybe we drop, like, if I was doing this, I mean, obviously we have BYU. If we're looking at next week's rankings, you're going to go ahead and take BYU. We're going to pretend that Notre Dame's in the 7th seed right now. I would like to see them below at least Miami and Bama. I mean, they have an early bad loss in the season. You can obviously come back from a bad loss at the beginning of the season, but like you said, they haven't really played anybody, but they have been doing the stat padding. They're
actually,
games
if you can,
many points.
If you can you pull up their schedule?
I can pull up their schedule
because this will be interesting to look at, because I do know they have at least one ranked win against when Navy was ranked. Now, Navy has looked horrible since then, as they just dropped their 3rd in a row yesterday. But we definitely should take a look at this.
All right, so All right.
So here we are. So I believe, okay, so we start off, I forgot about this. Actually, this is a good point. And this is good that we brought this up.
Game.
Texas A&M is a fantastic win now, especially on the road. But then you lay the stinker, all right, against Northern Illinois. You come back and you lay an absolute stinker. But they have looked good since then. Outside of the Northern Illinois game, I would say they look pretty good, but they got a big one this upcoming week. Number 18, I believe this is AP at the moment that is showed right now.
Yes.
Number 18 Army, they'll probably be around there in the CFP, give or take like 2 or 3 rankings. But yeah, big game for them. If they win in dominant fashion again, I think we can fully say that they will be a playoff lock.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Army, that's a tough conversation with Army. I mean, Army, they haven't played very many people, but I mean, they're they're showing up, man. They look.
They
Who
are.
doesn't like watching Army play good football? I mean,
Hey, bro,
they've got a
I sent.
quarterback.
Remember,
Man.
I sent you
Like,
to. I sent you the other day. 21 play drive against, I believe it was North Texas.
yeah.
20. It took almost an entire quarter for
Yep.
one drive. So Army, if you get behind on Army, it is very tough to come back because they just run, run, run. But back to Notre Dame here, I would
Yeah.
say. I would say.
I like where they're at. They're at a good position. They've got the big
Oh,
win against
100%.
A&M. They've
100%.
got the decent win against Navy. I mean, Navy, whatever. They were ranked at the time. And then you even look far back as Louisville. They won Louisville by a touchdown.
Louisville did lose yesterday, though. Big loss to.
I did see that. Yeah.
Don't remember who. Stanford. It was Stanford, and it was a 52-yard walk-off. I did see that yesterday. That was a big game for. So that makes them even look worse, in my opinion, because Louisville hasn't looked good. I mean, Louisville has looked pretty good this year, but now that I believe they're at 3 losses. So
yeah,
they're at 3 or 4 losses now. So that's kind of tough on the resume for Notre Dame, but I believe Notre Dame will get in as least as long as they went out. I don't know if they'll get a home playoff game, but they'll definitely get in the playoff.
I think they'll definitely make their way into the playoff. I mean, they've kind of got a little bit of a breeze. I don't foresee Army beating them next week. I would love to see it happen. Army deserves a big win at that point, but I mean,
all right,
it doesn't really.
So let's bring up the strength of schedule again.
Okay.
And then I believe who's next? Miami. This is another one that is very I've been heavy. I've not been high on Miami this year. As you can I will say though, 38th strength of schedule, a lot higher than I thought it would be, kind of like Penn State. They have not played a single ranked team this year. The closest they have played to a ranked team this year is Louisville, and they almost lost. They did almost lose, and I think they were on bye this week. And they are coming off a loss to Georgia Tech, which is not a great loss, even though Georgia Tech has been up and down.
They look pretty
shout
decent
out Haynes King. Haynes King's a dog.
But pretty decent this season. And I mean, taking down Miami second year in a row.
Yeah, that is true.
Second year in a row.
Crazy fumble game from last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Mario Cristobal at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
Definitely switches some things up here. I mean, Miami's had a pretty decent schedule, to be honest with you, compared to some of the other teams that we're looking at. They've got some good wins. They look decent. They got the bad loss. They deserve to be in the playoff. At the bare minimum, they deserve to be in the playoff. They've got a Heisman candidate quarterback looking great in the backfield. He had a little bit of a rough week against Georgia Tech, but
honestly, if you look at his box score, I honestly don't think he was the reason they lost. I think it was just an overall team performance in the end of the day.
Well that game.
He did. I believe he still had close to, other than the fumble at the end of the game, because I do remember watching that, he still threw close to 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, I believe. That offense, I will say, that offense is cooking with gas every week. Now on to Bama. Bama is an interesting one. They looked horrible after the Georgia win, whatever week that was. I don't fully remember what week that was. So after the Georgia game, you lay a stinker against Vanderbilt. I will say this, that was the biggest upset I have ever seen in my lifetime, and I don't think I will see a bigger one than that. Vanderbilt over Alabama, number 1 Alabama at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that was easily the biggest I have ever seen.
Not to put in a little bit of bias here, but I absolutely loved to see it. I mean, this team has done nothing.
I think we all did.
I think a lot of people loved to see it happen. They're obviously still very much in the playoff race. They're definitely in the race to win the SEC as well. We're looking at the second highest ranking in the top 14 here for strength of schedule. They've had some tough games. They've lost a few. Tennessee and Vanderbilt.
That game was an interesting one, to say the least.
They look vulnerable. I mean, Georgia came out and played a really, really bad first half, but we tightened up, and that second half looked. We exposed them a little bit. I think. I don't know if they got
for sure.
I don't know if they got comfortable. It doesn't matter. We exposed them there, and
I
they
think
could very
one
much be a
thing
3-loss team at this point.
I think one thing to add about the second half of that game was Bama's clock management was awful. They were
Oh
snapping
yeah.
the ball with like 20 seconds on the play clock all
Oh
the
yeah.
time. Now, obviously, you're going to run the ball a lot because you have the best running quarterback in the country in Jalen Milroe. But
Mhm.
when you're snapping the ball with 20 seconds, you're not looking to win. You're not looking to win. You got to kill the clock, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean that second half went on forever, and I mean I feel like their drives were definitely very short. But moving away from the Georgia game specifically, they've looked pretty decent all around. They've had some rougher weeks,
I believe,
but
52 to
they're
7 yesterday against Mercer.
yeah, it was Mercer though. Come on.
That is a good point.
But I mean, the offense is still very much producing. Same with the defense. I mean, they're definitely a very good all-around team. They have always had playoff potential. With this new playoff, they have a lot of potential, and I think they're looking to take the crown in the SEC this year. As much as I hate to say it, but
Are they? I don't know if they are right now. I believe the top two is Texas
you know what?
and
You're right.
Texas
It
A&M.
is
I don't believe because Bama has 2 conference losses,
because they have
and
the 2 conference losses to Tennessee and Vandy.
yep.
You're right. Yeah. So
And then I think even as of right now, is Georgia ahead of them? I could be wrong. I don't know.
It's Texas A&M, Georgia, and then Bama. I believe that's the rankings for the SEC at the moment. For whatever reason, there my brain was flip flopping A&M and Bama with the conference win. Even though I'm sitting here talking about Tennessee and Vandy taking them down, and those very well being SEC teams. Yeah, we're looking at Texas A&M, Texas A&M, Georgia, Bama for the rankings in the SEC right now.
All right.
So
I think on to Ole Miss now. 23rd strength schedule. They have played, I believe, so they've played Georgia. Have they played Alabama yet? Or did they not play them this? I don't think they played them this year.
No,
Actually,
no.
pull up the schedule if you can, because this is a team that, because this is a team that I honestly probably don't know much about outside of the Georgia game. I believe that was last week. So yeah, 23rd strength of schedule. All right, so we're looking at that South Carolina win looks really good right now, especially on the road. Oh yes, the Kentucky game. I forgot about the Kentucky game. That is a big game. That is a big loss. Yeah. I don't think it matters as much at this point because they absolutely dominated Georgia. But one thing there's a game coming up next week. They're going to Gainesville.
Oh yeah,
that is a massive game, especially because Florida just beat LSU.
LSU, yeah. Shifting away from the playoff in that aspect, I mean, we're looking at here. Ole Miss is very much in the playoff race, but we are looking at one of the biggest games for them. This could be right now. This could be their season. Florida looks amazing, coming off the huge win against LSU. I mean,
if you even want to go back a couple games, when before Lagway was hurt in that Georgia game, they looked really good.
This is the best 5-5 team in the nation. I mean,
I think I would agree with that.
They almost did it to us, and I think the only reason we survived that game, to be honest with you, is because Lagway got hurt. I mean, I won't ever wish an injury upon somebody, but I think that one saved us there.
Lagway is the real deal. Lagway is the real deal. That kid is amazing.
The thing I will say about Ole Miss, you look at some of these games, we've got 52 points. We've got another game with 52 points. We've got 76 against Furman. We've got 63 against Arkansas. This is a offensively sound team. Their defense is also there, but the offense,
their defensive line.
The offense has the ability to put up lots and lots of points, and they're going to do it because they can.
Exactly. They've always under Lane Kiffin. I can't remember a time where they didn't have a good offense.
Yeah.
No matter who was at quarterback, whether it was Matt Corral, Jackson Dart.
And they love Jackson Dart, so they're trying to get his stats up there. And I mean, I respect it. He's a good quarterback. It's a good team. Like we were talking about earlier, they just they've got some dirty tendencies with the injuries, the fake injuries and stuff. But
yes, 100% yes. I don't know. They probably have been informed to stop it.
Yeah.
Because I think I did hear on the broadcast last night that the SEC commissioner actually sent out a letter or email or something to all the teams saying, I don't like this. I don't know why this is happening. Please do not continue this.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't foresee, a little slap on the wrist warning is going to do anything, to be honest with you. I think they're going to continue to do it, and it's going to call for some rule changes. But I mean, we even look at this win against Arkansas here, 63-31. Arkansas,
based off of the Texas game yesterday.
Team.
Exactly, based off the basis off how bad Texas looked against them, that could definitely help their resume. So
that's another big win. Ole Miss, they've got a good schedule. They're looking good. They've got some big wins. They have some tough losses, but I mean, the wins right now, they're mattering more. So,
all right. So next one is Georgia. I don't know if you want to talk about them now or you want to talk about them later.
I mean, we can keep it short and sweet. I mean, we're looking at number one. I mean, is there anything you want to say? Because I could go.
That is true. Day. You got Bama on the road, Texas on the road, Ole Miss on the road. Obviously, you lost 2 of those, but and then get Tennessee. That's what. 4 top 10 teams now.
Yeah.
And 2 of them, well, actually we don't know about Tennessee.
Top 11.
But at the time, but obviously yesterday they were ranked 7. Yeah. So that's 4 top 10 teams at this point in the season. Georgia looks great.
Turn around and look, I mean, you've got Florida in the mix somewhere.
End up being a great win.
Other than that, man, I mean, it's just some big games on the road. Obviously, some losses in there, some tough losses. But on paper, this schedule looked rough. I remember looking at the schedule at the beginning of the season, and I was like, there's no way we're making it through the season undefeated. We've got some big games on the road. It's going to be a rough one. We're rounding out to the end of the season here, and I'm happy to see that we're being acknowledged as having that tough schedule. It's good to see. And to see it round out to a current standpoint being the hardest schedule in the country is really nice to see. But we're going to finish out strong. I mean, I hope that we can get some work in the playoffs here.
Yes, I definitely want to add that I have never in my life seen a schedule where you have to go to Bama, go to Texas, and go to Ole Miss. Those are easily, and I would say at least, obviously Texas and Bama, they're top 10 hardest places to play, especially with how good Texas is this year. And then sneaky, amazing stadium in, I believe it's Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah. Yep, Oxford.
That
it's
schedule.
Definitely a tougher place to play. But one thing I want to add about Georgia is, as a fan, I'm not looking for this team to go to the SEC championship. I
don't think they will either.
I hope that we can, just squeak into the first round of the playoffs. So we can have a pretty decent game. I don't want to see us in the SEC championship this year. Obviously,
that is another topic.
Yeah,
that I want to bring up. We will bring that up later. Whether or not we think getting a first round home game is better than getting the bye. But continue.
Just like I'm saying, I don't want to see us in the SEC championship. I mean, I want to see Bama play someone that's going to, put up a little bit of a fight. Not Bama, I'm sorry. I want to see Texas play somebody that's going to put up a little bit of a fight, see how they play, really see where it goes from there. And then, get our line in against another first round team, maybe get a home game, maybe not, probably not. Just have some fun, man. It's the first year of this new playoff. I'm looking for it to be fun. We're getting home playoff games. It's going to be electric. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
It is. It very much is. Now, I think we should skip over Boise, and you already covered them a little bit, but I think we should skip over them. And when we bring up the Heisman voting, because obviously we all know that Ashton Jeanty is hands down the best running back in the country, at least top 2 in Heisman voting with Travis Hunter. So we'll skip over them for now, and then we'll go to SMU. Now, you look at the 81st strength schedule. This is a sneaky team because definitely was not on anyone's radar to begin the year. There's no way. I don't even think they definitely were not preseason top 25. But they look great. They look absolutely fantastic. They are undefeated in conference play right now. They only have the 1 loss. I don't remember who that was to. Here we go. We got it pulled up here. Wait, is that? Oh yeah, BYU, great loss, amazing loss.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the year, they've pretty much dominated after that game. Like, I mean, the TCU game, they gave up 42, but they still put up 66 points. Then you go to Florida State, absolutely destroyed them, and then the Louisville game. But Louisville has given everyone competition this year.
Oh yeah,
The game that I want to highlight on here most is the Pitt game, because Pitt was undefeated, I believe, going into this game. They were either undefeated. No, they were definitely undefeated. And they put up a stinker, absolute stinker. I'm obviously biased because Penn State and Pitt in the past are rivals, and on Twitter, still rivals. So Pitt has been. They have played absolutely no one this year, and then they finally play a good team, and now they have lost 3 in a row. So shout out to you Pitt fans that said that Penn State would lose at home in the playoff. Yeah. But back to SMU.
I don't know. This team,
they look good. I don't know how they would pair up against the top teams, but as of right now, they're not in the playoffs. Actually, as of right now, they are not in the playoff because as of right now, they are projecting Miami to be the number 1 team coming out of the ACC.
I look at this team. I look at these games. There's a lot of close games in here. I mean, this is, no doubt a decent ACC team, but I'm not seeing them in the playoffs. I'm seeing them give someone a really easy first round game. It's cool to see a team like SMU make their way up and almost squeak into the playoffs, but unfortunately, unless they can somehow pull off beating Miami, I don't think that they deserve to have a spot here. They don't have a very
because they do have the one loss. So another loss. They have to be perfect coming out of there.
They've got the loss to BYU, which is their only loss. I mean, it's not a bad loss to have, but
by any means,
we're going to overtime with Duke and winning by 1 point. We're beating Boston College by 10 points.
But I would say they pretty much, I think, like the fourth quarter, they pretty much pulled away. They looked pretty good. But I agree with you. It's going to take a lot. The ACC is undoubtedly a 1-bid league for the playoff this year. It's just the auto bid. No one's going to get an at-large from the ACC. Just like the Big 12. Big 12 is another one at this point where they're probably only going to get one. So that is all of the top 14 teams in the strength of schedule. So I believe now what we should talk about, and if you could pull this up, is the AP poll that just dropped, I believe, 2 hours ago, because I think it comes out at it comes out at 2, so it came out an hour ago. This makes it look interesting now because BYU did lose to Kansas yesterday. So the playoff format is completely shaken up because we'll show you in a little bit when we'll show you in a moment. But as of right now, Boise State is the 4 seed because they are the 4th highest conference champ right now because of the BYU loss yesterday. This is crazy. I don't think there could have been a better way to start the 12-team playoff. So as of right now, we're looking at Oregon at the 1 seed, being the Big Ten champ, Texas at the 2 seed, being the SEC champ, Miami at the 3, being the ACC champ, and at the 4 right now would be Boise State as the next highest conference champ, and then BYU would slide in at the 12. Because they would be the guaranteed auto bid for the 5th highest. Yeah. So this is crazy.
And I'm gonna go ahead and scroll us down a little bit here because our 1 through 5 is unchanged this week. I mean, there's some close games in here with Oregon and Texas. I mean, whatever, we've both seen those, but I mean, nothing's changed here. So we've got Notre Dame moving up 2 spots after a win to Virginia, simply just because of this loss to Tennessee.
So and BYU losing and the BYU loss.
Yeah, and the BYU loss obviously bumping people down. So the biggest change we're looking at here is everyone's moving up a little bit, but we've got Georgia bumping 3 spots and jumping Ole Miss after a loss to Ole Miss.
That is a great point that you bring up there. Logically, if you think about it, Georgia should be 9 and Ole Miss should be 8, considering they just beat them a week ago. The AP is very questionable. That's why I mean, when it comes down to the little details,
Yeah.
the CFP usually gets it better. The committee usually gets it better than the AP. But the one thing that I really want to talk about is the 11 through 14, because this is the most interesting part right here. So as of right now, we are looking at Miami versus SMU in the ACC championship. Whoever wins that they're going to be the 3 seed right now, I believe. And then also you go down a little bit further. Look at those Buffs, man. Look at those Buffs sliding in at 16. If they win the conference, they're going to be like the 12 seed. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to play them. I do not want to play them in the playoff. Travis Hunter is a monster. That offense is really, really good with Jimmy Horn, LeJontay Wester, shout out, former FAU Owl. And Shador Sanders is absolutely cooking right now. So that is one team I would not want to see in the playoff.
Yeah, I would definitely be a little terrified to see them squeak in. I think they deserve to be, squeak in. They are a 2-loss team, but I really think that they can pull off the win for the conference, and they can sneak into that 12 seed there in the playoff, and really do some damage to a first round team, maybe even a second round team. Do I see them going all the way? Absolutely not. But do you see them, maybe dropping off a team that we didn't expect them to drop off in the first round or second round?
Yeah. So here's an interesting
team.
Here's an interesting scenario right now. So if they were to win the conference, they would be the 12 seed. And I know you know this. If everything plays out right now, as it would, they would play Ohio State in the shoe. Talk about the revenue that would generate, man.
Wow.
That would be insane. Now, obviously, there still needs to be some stuff that works itself out, because I don't know where Ohio State would go if they lost again to Oregon. I don't know if they would stay at 2. I don't know if they would fall. I believe the committee has said, I could be wrong, that conference championships will not matter as much this year because it's just an extra game, and whoever wins gets an auto bid, and whoever loses, either you're already out of the playoff, or if you're playing in the conference championship and you're in the playoff, they're probably not gonna deduct you, unless you're the only team that would get hurt right now, I think, would be if Texas lost in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Because they may just fall to, they might still get a home game if they lost. But
because they'd line up to play A&M, who's sitting here at 15. I mean, that would hurt them pretty tough if they did.
Now here's the thing: if they lose to A&M, they just play each other again the next week.
Probably, yeah.
So that would be so interesting. That would actually be crazy. I don't know how the tiebreakers work out. I don't think anybody does until you hear it. Nobody ever knows. But getting Texas and Texas A&M back to, actually, is Texas A&M this week, or is it the last week of the season?
I would assume it's the last week of the season, because it's probably that's rivalry.
I think you're right.
Rivalry.
Yes,
week.
I believe you're right. That would make sense. So yeah, right now the college football playoff is as open as it ever would be.
Yeah, it's wide open right now, man.
It is
There's a lot
wide
of
open.
There's teams dropping in and out. I mean, we had 2 teams drop out. Drop low.
So I think next, you're right. It's crazy movements, especially this week. This week has been crazy movements. I think the next thing we should talk about is the Heisman race, because this is one of the craziest years of the Heisman race.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is no quarterback that looks like the Heisman.
I mean, people are favoring Dylan Gabriel right now. I mean, he's definitely the front runner.
He did not look great yesterday. He did not look. He threw 2 picks, I believe, yesterday.
I agree. I mean, he doesn't look great. I don't agree that he should be that high up, but we are looking at,
could you pull up a list? I don't know because right now the only thing that I know for sure is that Genty and Hunter are the top 2. But after that, I'm kind of blurry on what it is. There is somebody that I am going to bring up that I don't think would be in the voting right now, and he may play for this team right here.
Let me just try to find a good one here. That's kind of
that is true. You gotta be. I want to find a good kind of tough because there's a lot of. So the only lists right now are the betting odds. There's no real ladders like in
Yeah,
like the
I
MVP
just
ladder,
wanna.
like in the NFL. Most of it is just
I mean, we can
betting
even
odds.
talk about the basics while I'm trying to find a decent little, photo here with, we've got.
Yes,
Who do you think the front runner is right now?
for me personally, I think the front runner right now should be, in my brain, it should be Genty, but I think in the voters' brain and across America at the moment, it's Travis Hunter. I would not be mad with any of them. I think they're both phenomenal players. I feel like Travis Hunter does stuff that we've never seen before, but Genty is doing something at running back we haven't seen since Barry Sanders.
That's what I'm saying. Is
He's on pace. I
there's
still believe he's on pace to break Barry Sanders' rushing record. And
yeah.
people want to bring up the schedule that he plays. This guy has played Oregon. This guy has ran for 200 yards against Oregon. This kid is crazy. Shout out Nick Bromberg for
Nick
the
Bromberg.
list.
Thanks for the Heisman watch list here. I mean, I think this is just about as up to date as we can get. Jalen Milroe.
He's not in contention.
Yeah.
Right now,
But
it is
we'll
a
pretend he's
two-man.
not there.
Yeah.
We'll
Right
pretend
now,
he's not
it is.
there.
I believe it's a 3-man race between Genty, Hunter, and Cam Ward. I don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to be in the race at this point. He is playing great.
I don't think he deserves to be there above Cam Ward in the first place. I mean, you look at simple skill and you look at stats.
Based off this list, I don't know if this is in order, because if it is, that's crazy. If Gabriel is ahead of Travis Hunter, but we'll base this off of we'll just base this off of like these are this is the players.
My favorite.
So who do you think should be the Heisman?
My Heisman favorite is 100% GNT. I mean, everything that you said, I agree with. He is just the absolute powerhouse of a running back.
Let me pull up his stats right now on my phone.
We haven't seen a running back do what he's done in a long, long time. And even still, you look back at I think it's the previous 3 Heisman winners. Previous 3 Heisman running back winners. He's outperforming.
Not even close. It's not even close. Between Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, and Derrick Henry, it's not close right now. So
the main problem with this is you look at the talent surrounding him. You have an amazing player, Travis Hunter, playing on both sides of the ball. Unreal talent. You don't see that. You don't see someone playing both sides of the ball exceptionally.
The last time someone has played close to this level was your former cornerback Champ Bailey, who they showed on the broadcast last night. He's only the third. Travis Hunter and him are the only 2 players within like the last 20 years that have had 3 interceptions and I believe 40 plus receptions. So Hunter's done it twice, which was yesterday, and Bailey did it in like 2000 something or like the late 90s, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So Travis Hunter's doing things that we've never seen before.
100%, and you even go as far as just ignoring Dylan Gabriel, who Cam Ward. I mean, if you've watched Cam Ward play, it's unreal. He's just he sits in the pocket.
He's an NFL quarterback.
He looks like
he's an NFL quarterback.
Man. He's just calm. He's controlled. He's accurate. He looks like he's just taking a nap in the backfield, and then he'll throw a dime to a wide receiver.
He is hands down
unreal.
Between him and Jalen Milroe, I would say they are the toughest quarterbacks to get to the ground.
But even still, Cam Ward's just he's got that calm, accurate kind of field general aspect to him. Where Milroe's always got his feet as an option. If he can't make a throw, he's making a first down with his feet, and that's where he comes in. He is slippery, man. Milroe is slippery. The second you open up that pocket for him, he's letting loose, and he doesn't care how many people he's got to run over before he does it. I mean, he's not in the Heisman race at this point, but at the same time, very, very high level quarterback compared to Cam Ward.
I brought up the Travis Hunter stat of him playing both sides of the ball. Now I want to bring up Genty's stats, because Genty, I've never seen rushing yards like this. This kid has he is 7 yards off of 1,900 rushing yards at 1,893. He has 27. I don't know if this is, shout out the Real app. I'm not 100% positive if this is combined. I think it is at 27. And I think he has 25 rushing touchdowns right now.
Okay.
This kid is unbelievable. I've never seen this. because I really didn't watch college football when like Derrick Henry was there. When Derrick Henry was, I'm kind of like been because at that point Penn State really wasn't that great, so I wasn't really interested at that point. And then Penn State kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna watch.
What you mean? I mean,
I'm not gonna watch
We've got the Aaron Murray days under my belt here. I mean, I watched, but it wasn't as fun as watching Stetson Bennett. But Aaron Murray's out.
Shout out the GOAT. Shout out the GOAT, Stetson Bennett. We love Stetson Bennett on here.
Yeah, dude, you don't know what you have until you lose it.
But yes, Genty's doing stuff I haven't seen since Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders, guys. One of the best, if not the best running back of all time. It is insane. So as of right now, obviously, I'm not even biased because I can't really be biased because I don't watch these teams that much outside of the players. Genty's my number one. Genty is my number one.
I think we can both agree there. I mean,
Travis Hunter's not far away, though.
Travis Hunter's
not far away.
I mean, you look at some of these previous Heisman winners. There's not too much competition. You've kind of got to, this guy's probably going to win the Heisman, but it's all up in the air still. I mean, one person has a bad game and they're out. I mean, you look at Dylan Gabriel. He's up here in the race. He has one bad game and he's out at this point. I mean, I don't see him in this race anymore. Only time will tell. I personally,
you are right. We're getting close.
I got to bet down on Gianti to win it.
Oh,
so I'm hoping he wins it. So
money on the line, ladies and gentlemen.
Money on the line.
So this upcoming week, big week, right? Next week we got a top 5 matchup in Indiana, Ohio State. If you could pull up the schedule for next week on ESPN, if you want, you can use whatever. But there's a lot of big games. That is the biggest game because this will show us how good Indiana truly is. And another one that we talked about earlier, Army and Notre Dame. That'll also be a crazy big game. So yeah, there's a lot going on next week. I believe for our two teams, there's not much. You guys play UMass, I think.
We play UMass next week. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up.
And then you play Georgia Tech. Obviously, Georgia Tech you can't take lightly, and then Penn State's playing Minnesota this upcoming week, and then after that they play Maryland. So they'll most likely just went out. There's nothing really to talk about for them. But around the country, though, man, we're heating up. It's getting there. We are heating up on the playoff race. Everything. It is coming down to the wire, and we still got some big games to go. So
I'm trying to find a top 25 schedule here. Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty decent wins or pretty decent games coming in next week. And yeah, I mean, going on topic with the Ohio State Indiana game, I'm not expecting much from it. I think it's going to be an absolute beatdown on the side of Ohio State. But you never know. I mean, Indiana, I'd love to give them all the credit in the world. They look like a great team. They look like they never looked before. I mean, this is a freaking basketball school, man. They're number 5 in the nation for Florida, or for football, and I hope they can do some damage to Ohio State, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you.
Okay, there it is.
It's a little out of order, but we'll work through it.
This is about I think can you filter it by? I think you can filter it by top 25 because right now
I can't find it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Wait, scroll up to the top. Conference schedules. Can you click? Does that pop up on the right? Oh yeah, click that. Click the down arrow.
Yeah.
Oh, why is it not popping?
Yeah, there's no. It's not going to pop.
All right, it's fine.
So it's whatever.
Just we'll just try to find it. It's unfortunate that it is what it is, but top noon. I am very over these big noon games. I don't know about you, but you don't really have to deal with it as much because you are not a Big Ten football fan as much.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, obviously because your team's not in there, but
game
big noon kickoff. You suck. Why are we getting 2 straight top 5 matchups at noon? I don't know. But that's besides the point right now. We got to talk about this game. If you could click on it, click the 12 p.m. and it should bring up the game cast. This is a massive game. Kirk Cignetti, absolute monster of a head coach. This guy is doing things that Indiana has literally never done. They've never been 10-0. They've never actually, not only have they never been 10-0, they have never won 10 games.
Yeah.
This is insane stuff we are seeing.
Oh yeah.
We got I believe we got Rourke, their starting quarterback. As you can see, very good stats. Very
Rourke
good stats.
Maybe making his way into that top 5, top 6 Heisman range with Dylan Gabriel dropping down.
That is a good point.
He may be making his way up.
And then we got Will Howard. Will Howard is interesting. He's a great quarterback, but is he good enough for the big moments? Because he looked great against Penn State, outside of a couple issues that almost won us the game. But if we go back to that Oregon game, this guy slid with no time on the clock.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just
that was
a one-time thing.
Bad playmaking decision from him. But what I'd like to acknowledge here is Indiana's last 5. I mean, these are
Michigan State,
teams,
Washington, Nebraska.
I mean, we squeaked by Michigan, but Nebraska.
Nebraska's the best team there, although they haven't looked great lately. I'm not gonna lie. But that's the best. I think that's their best win so far this year.
Oh yeah,
because you absolutely killed them.
Huge.
That is a big, especially because look over to the right a little bit. That's only a 4-point win from Ohio State at home.
Exactly.
So head to head on those games, obviously Indiana's looked better. But as we saw earlier, 100th strength of schedule.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It's really bad.
Now, it's not their fault. They don't choose who they play in conference. Especially now that there's no divisions in the Big Ten for the first time, either ever or for the first time in a while. But I don't see a way where Indiana comes out of this on top. I really don't. Actually, do they have the spread up at the moment? I don't know if it would be on the page.
The matchup predictor. I don't think there's a spread, but I mean, all that we. Really
I think it was. Hold on. I think on my phone it should pull up, but you can give your thoughts right now of what you think this is going to look like.
Oh man. Like I said earlier, man, it's Indiana. They've got really easy schedule. Yeah, they're 10-0. I'm happy that they've done what they've done, but I think that their undefeated streak ends this weekend. Ohio State they're not going to be able to squeak by Ohio State.
The opening line for this game is -10.5 in favor of the Buckeyes. So Vegas is not very high on Indiana either. Because, it's the shoe. The shoe is, people may not think of it as like a top 5 place to play in the country. I mean, maybe some people do, but it's easily top 7, top 8. Like, you don't want to go into Ohio State. That's over 100,000 people. Their fans may suck, but they are rowdy.
Yeah.
But yes, you don't want to go into the shoe. You don't. You just don't. No matter who you are, I don't care if you're Georgia, I don't care if you're Alabama, I don't care if you're Penn State, you don't want to go into the shoe. It's just not, they don't lose many games there. They don't.
No, it's a scary team. And I mean, yeah, like I said, it's not happening.
Yeah. I will say, I will go down again. One of the things I do want to highlight is Quinshaw Junkins and Travion Henderson. Probably one of the best running back duos within the past 5 to 10 years. There's not many I can think of that would be better.
Can't stop yawning, man. I don't know what's going on.
Bro, this Georgia fan, he's tired from last night. They just whooped him. You know what I'm saying? But
I got bored early. Second half was a snooze fest from Tennessee.
hopefully that generates some Tennessee fans in the comments. But
Yeah. Snooze fest. Go Vols.
All right, back to the topic at hand here. Judkins, monster. Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson's your backup.
Yeah,
This
that's
kid would
unreal.
start on like, I don't know, 75, 80% of other teams in the country.
Send him to Georgia, bro. We need a running back.
I'm not sure, but I think Travion might be done after this year. Obviously, you're just joking, but
Yeah, I'm totally playing.
But I think he's done after. I know Judkins is pretty much done after this year. He may have 1 year left, but he's been in college for a good amount of time. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how Indiana stops that, because there have been times this year where Ohio State has looked rough in a run game, notably against Nebraska. I believe they only averaged 2-ish yards a carry against Nebraska. So, but I think they have kind of stepped it up a little bit. I know against Penn State they ran the ball pretty efficiently.
Just one of the slow games. Yeah, I mean, they're happening across the board, slow games.
I have a feeling that this game will be around 14, 20, like it'll be like 21 or 14 to like 7 at halftime, and then Ohio State will just come out in the second half and just pull away, and it'll be like a 35 to 14 win.
Yeah, it's not going to be very close. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be an absolute blowout.
That's why I'm kind of thinking like a 28-35 to like to 14 or 20. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not going to be
a convincing win, but not nothing
crazy. I mean, we already talked about Ole Miss going into Florida. That's going to be a tough game for them. Across the board, I don't really know if we're looking at any other big games next week.
The one game I do want to highlight. Oh, scroll up. I just saw one that might be interesting based off of yesterday. Colorado at Kansas. Kansas is a team right now. They're right below the BYU game. Okay. If you could click on that, that'd be.
Oh yeah, I got
pull this up. See the stats right now. Kansas went into BYU and won. Yeah. I'm surprised. I heard a lot of people. The spread yesterday was only like 2.5 for BYU. I was shocked, and then when I saw it on game day, I was even more shocked, because I'm pretty sure like 2 or 3 guys on the panel picked Kansas to win.
Wow!
So this could be an interesting game because Kansas, as you could see lately, they play close games. They've beaten back-to-back weeks, have beaten ranked teams. I'm not 100% positive if India or Iowa State fell out of the rankings this past week.
I believe they did.
Actually, my bad. When Kansas played them, they were. ISU was probably ranked. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But
I think they were still ranked, and they dropped out when they lost to Kansas.
You're right. So Kansas has 2 back-to-back top 25 wins, and now they get a very hot team in Colorado coming in to Kansas to play them. This is a 3:30 game too, so there's definitely
be a game to keep an eye on for sure.
Because if Colorado has a hiccup and loses, they're out of the race completely. They're not going to make the Big 12 championship. Actually, they could. Actually, I take that back, because Kansas State just lost yesterday, and so did Iowa State. So even if they lose, they could still make the Big 12 championship. I don't know if they'll win though. And then I believe the last game that we got to talk about: Army versus Notre Dame, Yankee Stadium.
Oh yeah, that is at Yankee Stadium.
This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
Pretty sweet.
So, based off the matchup predictor from FPI is a very interesting ranking source.
Yeah, they're not heavy in favor of Army, simply because of the stats across the board, the strength of schedule,
and
I don't expect the FPI to think that Army is going to take this one, and I don't expect Army to take this one either. I mean,
if this
do I expect them to put up a fight and put up a good game against Notre Dame, I think that they'll keep it a little close, but at some point or another, Notre Dame's going to pull away, and they're going to take out the undefeated Army.
I agree with you. It's going to be tough, but if Army gets up early, 7 points, 10 points, it's going to be very difficult to come back, because this team, if they're in their zone blocking, If they are in the zone blocking, they're going to run all over you.
They run that clock too, man. They don't
They
play.
they are easily the fastest team when it comes to the game clock. Like the game clock just drains and the games go by super fast. So yeah, huge shout out, Bryson Daly. Are you kidding me?
Man,
1,000 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns, and then on top of that, you add 7 passing touchdowns and only 1 interception. This is crazy. This kid is going absolutely insane. And thankfully, I believe he's coming back. He was hurt against the North Texas game, which is even crazier because they still looked really good without him. At least on, I mean, they only scored 14 points, but when they had to do it, they did. They went down that 21 play or 24 play drive, whatever it was. And they just drained it
out
completely. Yeah. So Bryson Daly's coming back, probably between him and Jalen Milroe for probably the best running quarterback in the country. That triple threat will get you, man. Or triple option, excuse me.
Yeah.
That'll get you if you're not ready for it.
No.
And then
okay.
Yeah. And then Riley Leonard, obviously. Actually another really good running quarterback. Another really good running quarterback. But he's interesting. I don't really know how to examine him as a quarterback at the moment, because when he was at Duke, he had a couple good games last year with Mike Elko. But he also was hurt a lot last year, and then this year they did beat Texas A&M. But then since then, you never know.
We'll see what happens. So they'll sneak their way into the playoff, and they'll get their chance to shine, or their chance to give someone a win.
Yeah. So I would say right now, what else do you want to? I think we should hit the Penn State topic now, because this is a very big topic across all college football. Believe it or not. Especially the one guy that I saw talk a lot of smack about us was Mr. Paul Feinbun. Said that actually also Mad Dog as well on the First Take or whatever show it was.
Yeah.
They don't think Penn State should be a top 5 team in the country. I don't know what you think, but based off of this strength of schedule, people say we don't play anyone. Based off this strength of schedule, we play a lot of people compared to everyone else.
Compared to the surrounding teams, yeah. I mean, you're up there in the top, we got top 4 or 5 teams in terms of strength of schedule. But, the big problem here is it's eye test.
I agree. I agree with that.
It's what matters right now. Now, for me, I would love to. I know a lot of people hate the FBI. I know a lot of people despise, the computer stuff, but I really think going forward there needs to be some sort of let's look at the strength of schedule. Let's look at the games that they've won, the games that they've lost, the scores of these games, the stats behind these games. Let's take into accountability what teams really are the best based off of everyone else. I think at one point or another it will be sort of like the FPI in terms of how they start ranking these teams, instead of it being a committee, being a bias, being on, because there is SEC bias. We've talked about this plenty of times before. Will we see it as much in this playoff? I don't
Definitely
think we
not.
Will.
You can tell by this rankings right here.
You can see it all the time, and there was SEC bias for years.
I think right now there's no SEC bias.
No,
Look
there's
at this.
none.
There's one team. Now, obviously, this is not. This is from yesterday or 2 days ago, or the past week, because the playoff rankings don't come out till Tuesday. But I don't think SEC bias is there anymore, because I'm looking at this.
We can sit here and talk about.
There's four top 5 Big Ten teams.
Yeah, it's not, and there's not really anything they can do about that, because they're
beating up on each other.
We're getting automatic bids from every conference. The SEC is literally wide open because there's it's all over the place. I mean, there's really no place for SEC bias with this, because the conference is tearing itself apart. And there's automatic bids from every conference. I like this playoff structure a lot more than I liked the highest 4 ranked teams. But let's put the SEC champion in it, even though someone else should have deserved to be in it probably. But we're not going to talk about that because SEC bias, it's non-existent this year, at least in the playoff. We need to take more of a standpoint of looking at strength of schedule, looking at stats, looking at wins, the scores of those games against what teams. One point or another, there will be, a computer program, something to determine these factors, and I'm on board for it because we look at teams like BYU and Indiana, ranked 5 and 6 as of last week. Understand BYU's dropped, but these teams are ranked 5 and 6, and you've got, not to be a fan, you've got Georgia with the number 1 strength of schedule sitting behind the 100th, sitting behind the 73rd. It's
the only thing I will bring up about that, and this is a big topic at hand with Penn State. People talk about who the SEC teams have beat, but they don't talk about who the SEC teams have lost to. And I will say Georgia's an outlier because Georgia's only 2 losses this year are
conference
to
games.
top 10 Ole Miss
games.
and top 5 Texas, or top 10 Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, and they're good. But when you roll back before last week, and this was one thing that people were fuming about. They talk about Tennessee, and here's the thing: you look at Penn State and Tennessee head to head before yesterday. Tennessee and Penn State, they both were the same record, and in Tennessee, yeah, they don't get me wrong, they have the Alabama win, which you obviously should not look by. But what people have not brought up, they lost to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And Penn State's only loss is to the number 2 team in the country. Like, yes, I understand we can't beat Ohio State, and yes, our schedule hasn't looked great, but based off that number 32 strength of schedule, I'm sorry, I think we are ranked fairly. The only team,
Penn State is ranked fairly. We're looking at a 12-team playoff here, not a 14 playoff. Now, if we were looking
exactly,
at 14,
and I will agree with you.
Looking at a 14 playoff, this is where it gets a little sensitive with Penn State being in the 4 right now. But we're looking at a 12-team playoff. We're looking at Penn State having a first-round game because they're not leading the conference. We're looking at multiple teams in this playoff that I don't believe deserve to be in this playoff race. SMU, BYU, Indiana. I mean, I wouldn't
fully scratch out SMU yet, but I agree with you. No, that's your opinion, but yeah. I agree with you on BYU. BYU either has to win the conference or they're not getting it.
Yeah. And I'd love to see Indiana do some work. I mean, the underdog story is always beautiful. It's always amazing. I respect the team. I respect what the coaches have done. I respect the talent on that team.
If you look at this logo right here, I wouldn't mind if they went into the shoe and absolutely just won. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
I don't think most of the country would be upset about that.
I don't think it would either. But I mean, we've got a lot. We got a lot of watching to do. We've got some big weeks ahead of us. I'm excited for the playoff.
Massive weeks.
I'm hoping it lines up for Penn State, Georgia to play. We've been talking about that for a while.
That is true. As of right now, based off the AP poll, not based off of, we'll see on Tuesday. But as of right now, it would go Oregon is the first seed. The 2 seed would be Texas. The 3 seed would be Miami because they are the projected winner. And right now, the 4 seed, believe it or not, would be Boise State because of the loss from BYU. And then BYU right now would be the 12 seed because they would be the next highest conference champ. And then you move down. The 5 would be Ohio State. 6 would be Penn State. 7 would be Indiana. The 8 would be Notre Dame. And then it would be Bama, Georgia, and then Ole Miss. So right now, Ohio State would, in the first round, Ohio State would play BYU at home. Penn State would play Ole Miss at home. Indiana would play the Georgia Bulldogs at home, which is insane. And then Notre Dame would play Bama at home. Yes. Notre Dame.
This is going to flip-flop. It's going to flip-flop because either way, if if Indiana loses, they're not dropping out of the playoff, but they're
Here's the
not
thing: they need to
staying at
lose
their
convincingly.
current.
Like they need to lose like
Yeah,
closely if they
they're
want to
not
be
dropping
respected.
out of the playoff, but they're going to lose some spots. Maybe one, maybe two spots they're going to drop. That's going to shake up the first round games as well. Um,
Yes,
we'll
100%.
see what happens. And I mean, I agree with you. You mentioned earlier, I believe that, in this AP poll, Georgia's ranked above Ole Miss. Now, that would line up for us
That
to
make
be playing each other in the first round if the
Oh
playoffs
well,
started
if you
today.
flip them, if you
Yeah.
flip them, yeah.
Yeah,
if you
no,
flip
no,
them.
no, no.
If
That's
based
what I'm
off
saying.
of based off of this CFP
I think
poll
Ole Miss
right
needs
now,
to be above Georgia. We just
because
lost
they just
to them.
won. Yeah, they just beat
we
y'all.
just lost to them, but now we're flip flop ranked above them. I understand we just beat Tennessee, but at the same time, we jumped 3, and Ole Miss went up 1 spot after the
Yeah,
AP.
it makes no sense.
They should have just shifted everybody up 2 spots with Tennessee and BYU dropping out. There was no talent shift. Alabama has beaten us. Ole Miss has beaten us. Keep them above us. Whatever.
It should straight
There's
up.
no point in us going above Ole Miss.
It should straight up right now be the rankings that we are looking at in front of us, just like everyone's moving up.
Yeah, BYU and
Exactly.
Tennessee are going to drop down.
So, like,
and, we're looking at. Yeah.
Actually, that brings me to the next point that I want to talk about. What would you want the top 12 to be right now? If the season ended today, what do you think the CFP would look like?
If the season ended today, I mean, are we looking at games last week, or like what would I want it to look like? I mean,
if next weekend was the playoff, if the playoff started next weekend, and based off what you saw yesterday, what do you think the playoff seeding should look like?
Exactly like what we've just talked about. We've got Oregon in the 1 seed. We've got Texas in the 2. We've got what are we looking at here? We've got
Miami's in the 3.
Miami's going to win the ACC. They're in the 3. And like you said, we got Boise State in the 4. That's fine. I mean, BYU is going to drop down, and they're going to get that 12 seed. So we're looking at Ohio State, Texas, Miami, Boise State in the conference winners, and then we've got BYU in the 12 seed there. And then we've kind of got what I would say is I think we're looking at we've got Ohio State, and then we've got Penn State, and then I'm honestly thinking that.
So I guess if it okay, let me retract.
Indiana playing Ohio State. If we're not looking at Indiana playing Ohio State, then it's
let me retract a little bit. Let's say, because honestly, I think you know what? Let me scratch what I said before. What do you think it's going to look like at the end of the year?
What do I think it's going to look like at the end of the year? Better question.
Do you still think those 4 conference champs it's going to be what it is?
Yeah, we're going to look at Oregon, Texas, Miami, and Boise State being the 4.
Okay. And then you think BYU's going to be the 5th, or do you think Colorado's going to sneak in?
You know what? I do think Colorado might have the chance to take down BYU. I'm going to go ahead and solidify my answer with being Colorado sneaking into that 12 spot and beating BYU.
Look at that.
I think that they get it done. I think they make it happen.
So that means you think an Ohio State-Oregon rematch, you think Oregon's winning.
In an Ohio State-Oregon rematch, I think Ohio State's taking the crown on this next one.
So Ohio State would be the first round bye.
Oh, so between
because that you remember you got to think about that also.
Yeah, they are going to play each other. I honestly think we could be looking at Ohio State being the 1 seed, being the 1 seed. They could be the 1 seed.
I
think that we're going to look at them being the 1 seed here. It was a very close game. There were some questionable decisions. I think Ohio State turns around, makes their adjustments, and I think they come out and they kind of after last week with Oregon, they make them look a little weak. So I'll scratch what I said. We're going to look at Ohio State in the 1 seed. We're going to look at Texas in the 2 seed, Miami in the 3 seed. We're going to put Boise State in the 4 seed. And then down there in the 12 seed for the 5th conference champion, we're going to look at Colorado. And then succeeding after that, we're going to be looking at, we'll put Oregon. We got Penn
5.
State. Yep, Oregon at the 5. We got Penn State at the 6. I think we're going to look at not Indiana. I think we're going to look at Notre Dame sneaking up into the 7 here. We're looking at Notre Dame sneaking up into the 7 here, and Indiana dropping just below them.
Oh, so you're saying so what you're thinking is Indiana would still if this would to be the outcome, Indiana would still have that home playoff game, which we haven't even thought. After you're finished here,
It's
we'll
either
talk about the home games versus the buys.
I think their loss against if they lose to Ohio State, it's not going to affect them too heavily. Like I said, drop one spot, maybe two spots. So we're looking at. I'm going to put Notre Dame in the 7. Alabama could sneak into the 8 here.
That is very true. That is very true.
I'm going to put either Alabama or Indiana at the 8 or 9.
See this is where SEC bias could come into play.
Exactly.
Is the lower seeds?
Those are changeable. I'm going to put Indiana and Alabama at the 8 or 9. At the 10, we're looking at Georgia in the 10, and then from there, that's going to change. I mean, I think Ole Miss makes their way in, but at the same time, we could see BYU as well.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, but here's the thing.
Well, no, because if they lose
again,
to
remember what
Colorado,
we said earlier. Yeah, what we said earlier is because
they lose to
the
Colorado,
Big 12,
they're done.
The Big 12 is one bid, one auto bid. They are not getting an at-large. And also interesting with that, think about this. What if, now this is very what if Miami lost to SMU, Boise State is the 3rd seed? That would be crazy. That would be insane. Now that's obviously a very crazy. What if. That'd be crazy. We do still think Miami is going to win there. All right, so that is your playoff. So you would have at the moment you're saying at the end of the season, we're going Ohio State in the 1, Texas in the 2. I believe you said Miami in the 3, Boise in the 4, and then the final conference champ would be Colorado, and then so then your first round matchups would be Oregon playing Colorado, Penn State playing Ole Miss. Then you have Notre Dame playing Georgia, right? That's what you said?
I believe
that would be a crazy game. And obviously you don't want to go to Notre Dame on the road. Then you never want to do that. But then you have Indiana versus Alabama, but you said they could switch. It could be very up and down.
I'm going to see them either 8 or 9 there.
All right. So now what I do want to talk about, because we probably should have brought this up a lot earlier, the first round versus the first round buys. Now, because you get a home game in the first round, I personally believe that it is better to get a home game in the first round.
See, now this is where I don't agree with you. This is where I don't agree with you, because a game in the playoffs is a game in the playoffs. Yeah, you might be able to build some potential and build some hype, but at the end of the day, it's still a game. There's still potential for injury. There's still potential for anything to happen. It's a home game. I would rather take a bye than a home game. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
But here is where I add to this, and this is what I heard last night on the broadcast of the Georgia game. Or actually, it was not the Georgia game. It was the Penn State game. Redshirts don't count in the playoffs. So if you've been redshirting someone the whole year as a freshman, sophomore, whatever, guys can play in the playoffs without it mattering. It's on their eligibility. So technically, the injury bug wouldn't be as big of a factor. Now, obviously, I guess it still would be, because these players they haven't played a lot, but
yeah,
in the home
there's
game,
still always
they probably would play pretty well.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I still, at the end of the day, would much rather have a bye than have a first round home game, because if you have the choice, obviously.
Now, I mean, I genuinely think having a first round home game could be better, because it also could get some fire under you. You're like, especially if a team is playing a little like Texas. Honestly, I think Texas is a team that could benefit from a home playoff game, because they have looked at some points this year. They've looked a little, iffy. So like a first round home game could spark something into a team that is, the crowds are going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be hyped, bro.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really cool to see home playoff games. The crowds are going to be unreal. Yeah, it could definitely get some spark under these teams, but at the same time, I don't think it's worth the risk of possibly losing a game or possibly losing someone to injuries. The injuries have been kind of all over this year.
And you definitely know that because of Georgia.
I do. There's been a lot of injuries.
Trevor Etienne specifically.
That's a rough one right now. I mean,
it is.
We've had
but you do get the 3 weeks.
We have. I mean, Dylan Bell was hurt last night, man. I don't know if you saw that.
That is true. That is
Bell
true.
He
did. It looked like a little sprained ankle or something.
He came out with a boot on.
Yep. Could be a sprained ankle, maybe a slight fracture.
To be honest with you, but
but you do get the 3 weeks from the last week of the season to playoff, which is interesting. Now that also brings up the question for the 5th highest conference champ. They have to play, so they only get 2 weeks rest because they have to play in the conference champ, but they also have to play in the first round.
Yep. Yeah.
So that could be interesting. Like if Colorado were to win, now 2 weeks is still 2 weeks in football. Like it's still a good amount of time off.
That's a lot of time, but 3 is even better.
3 is you never know.
Yeah.
So and I've been thinking about this a little bit throughout us recording. And we should have brought it up when we were talking about the Heisman. If you were to pick a Heisman dark horse, if there's somebody that is playing out of their mind right now, that is not getting the recognition they deserve, who would that be?
I don't think anybody. I think the people that are getting recognition. I know that the question is structured for there to be an answer.
There is, and I should have brought him up earlier, and I haven't.
I know who you're thinking. I know who you want to be there.
I don't think. I honestly don't think he should. Okay, but
it's Mr. Tyler Warren, ladies and gentlemen.
There it is. This guy,
the Penn State Nittany Lions. Mr. Tyler,
maybe a little biased, but definitely biased.
Like, come on.
But no, okay, but I do want, but like I should have honestly specifically said our teams. If there is a player in Georgia right now that you think should get more recognition, who would that be? Or we could even reiterate it: less hate or more recognition.
I'm not going to go as far as less hate because Beck deserved the hate. He turned around and he had a really great game last night, and I was a Beck hater, and he redeemed a little bit of that last night, and I know that's the answer you were looking for. Is you want to see less hate with Beck? No, I don't. He deserved the hate. He's turned around. He's made it good. One player, and not in the aspect of like winning a Heisman or like getting recognition from the league, but getting recognition on his own team. Oscar Delp, number 4 tight end. He needs to get more play time. He needs to get more targets. He was the backup to Brock Bowers last year, man. I mean, there's a large hole to fill. There are big shoes to fill for Oscar Delp, and he had 2 touchdowns yesterday, man. He put up, I think it was 6 receptions for about 60, 70 yards, somewhere in that range. He looked good. He needs more targets. He's got hands. I like him a lot.
The specific play I want to bring up, and it was more the throw than the catch. The seam route into double coverage that Carson Beck threw.
Oh yeah,
for Delp's first touchdown
before he even turned,
that was one of the best throws I have seen all season.
I don't know if you noticed the one that he threw to London Humphreys as well.
Yes, on the play that he thought was offsides. Was that the one where he thought it was offsides? I believe.
Maybe, but there was the
one... it was the pass that was right into his arm. They were really close to each other. Yes,
they were very close to each other. And
Carson Beck balled out yesterday.
That was one of the best passes I've seen him make. And I mean, he was running yesterday too. Like,
indeed,
Carson Beck's always been a good quarterback. He's just been behind this veil of being boring and being. We can go in depth with Mike Bobo's play calling just being bland and predictable.
But yesterday was a great game called by Bobo. I will agree with that.
Unreal yesterday. I mean, we pulled out like designed quarterback runs. We played less screens. We passed the ball more. I'm glad we passed the ball more because of the injuries that we had on running. The running wasn't working anyways. I mean, the offensive line was giving Carson time, but they weren't giving holes for Nate Frazier. And looking at Carson Beck, after the Ole Miss game and after the Florida game, Carson Beck was getting pummeled by the defensive line on both of those games. And to see him have time to pass yesterday was beautiful. It was amazing to see. Yep. I'll stop ranting, though. Oscar Delp deserves more recognition from his team.
And we
more
know what time it
targets.
is. This
Go
is
ahead,
the
buddy.
one thing that I've been wanting to talk about all the time because this kid is hands down the best tight end in the country. He is not getting the recognition around the nation that he should. He plays every position on offense you could think of as a tight end, and his name is Tyler Warren. I have been watching this kid since 2021, and this kid has absolutely changed his game throughout his time in college.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There was a play this year. I'm sure everyone has seen this. This went
Are you
viral.
talking about the triangulation one, the snap? Come on, man. He snapped the football and caught
and then
the touchdown.
not only he mauled someone. He
the
mauled
touchdown.
someone for the touchdown, bro. Oh my god. But this kid, if you can pull up maybe his pull up his player profile on ESPN and then go to his game log. I've never seen a player like this in college football. This kid has played quarterback, wide receiver. You won't see it here, but look, just receiving. Just look at the receiving at the top. This guy, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Like this kid is like the best receiver. Like he's the best tight end as a regular tight end in the country. But then you add the fact that this guy takes snaps at quarterbacks. Apparently he snaps the ball. Doesn't even just take the snap. He actually snaps the ball. This guy is one of the best blocking tight ends in the country. This kid is unbelievable. And honestly, top 10 Heisman guy. But easily the Mackey Award winner. And if he doesn't get it, and the only guy that I can think of that would get it over him is Harold Fanning Jr. at Bowling Green, which they did play each other.
Though. It's not.
It shouldn't. But then people bring up the argument though. People bring up the argument though, like Genty. Harold Fanning Jr. has done this against every team this year, and I don't think they'll give it to him. But if they do, it's gonna be a riot.
Yeah.
It's going to be a riot out of Penn State fans because Tyler Warren is hands down the best. This guy took a snap at quarterback and ran 48 yards for a touchdown yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
what tight end you know is doing that?
No, I don't know. Nobody. I mean, I watched Brock Bowers play last year and he wasn't doing that. So,
okay, but Brock Bowers was taking jet sweeps to the house, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Hey,
I don't think. I guess Tyler Warren could do that, but he's not. He's nowhere near the athlete that Brock Bowers is.
No,
at least speed wise. All right. Well.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about that we haven't hit?
I think we've covered our college football topics. I mean, we've got a couple weeks ahead of us. We'll definitely have more stuff to talk about, but
we will definitely talk about. We'll definitely record when it comes back to conference championships, I think. Because also we did not point this out. Obviously, we did point out that this is the first episode, but this is called All Ball with CNE. So we will not just be talking about football. We will be talking about, or I should say, college football. We will be talking about the NFL. We will be talking about the NBA, maybe some NHL, and definitely some MLB because we watch everything. We watch the big four. We watch the big four sports. And also, he doesn't have as much knowledge about this as I do, but we also will probably hit some college basketball as well. Shout out the FAU Owls.
We can circle around to that one closer to March.
And then also maybe down the line, if any of you guys get interested, we also are very big into some movies. We could talk about movies too if you guys would like. Let us know in the comments if you think we should. Also, maybe some music. I know Cameron is a very big music guy.
Yeah.
But I think for right now though, we'll just stay with the sports topics.
Stick with the sports, but yeah, if anything.
But if you guys want to, if you guys want to see talk about some movies, some Marvel movies, some just big movies in general that are coming up, because I know there's some big ones coming out at the end of the year, and then there's some big ones coming up in 2025. Let us know in the comments.
We don't have to make some full episodes either, right? Like we can.
We can split up topics. We can split up the music and the movies into one entirely if you want.
Something like that. I mean, yeah.
Let us know in the comments let us know in the comments what you want us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next episode. Any final words?
No final words. Just, go Dogs. Peace out.
Go Penn State. We will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.